Hello and welcome once again to GameSpot of Thrones. I'm Lucy, joined this week by Dave Jewett.
Hello.
And Tamor Hussein.
Hello.
Newcomer to the show. Are you excited to be here?
I'm very excited.
Yeah.
We've had a interesting episode.
Bit of a meh episode, but before we get into it, we're going to be delving deep into this week's episode. So season 6, episode 6, Blood of My Blood. If you haven't watched it, what are you doing here? Go watch it, because there are going to be spoilers aplenty. But if you did catch the episode last night, then let's get into it. This episode, I guess they were trying to give us a little time to, get over the emotional roller coaster that was last week. But there was a bunch of filler in this one.
Yep.
At least it was bookended by, the good bits.
Yeah.
But before we get there, Tamor, what happened across the Narrow Sea in Essos?
So in Essos, Arya is still on her assassination mission. And she's still watching the reenactment play.
She loves it.
Yeah, she's really enjoying it. She's well into it. She starts off getting a good chuckle out of seeing Joffrey's poison scene, which we all loved, obviously. But then she gets to see Lady Crane's powerful acting, which kind of enraptures her, and the emotion of it kind of stirs some emotion within her. It kind of reminds her of what she's lost, and almost is a callback to her original quest for revenge. From there, she goes backstage, carrying on her mission to poison Lady Crane, puts the poison in there, but on her way out, accidentally runs into Lady Crane, and they have a bit of a heart-to-heart, and they discuss acting and how they change the script, how she changed it, and Lady Crane's really nice and charming and warm in the way a mother is, which is something Arya hasn't had in a really, really long time. But yeah, she kind of leaves off, and during the whole time you see Bianca in the background, and it's kind of implied she's the one who put the mark out on Lady Crane.
Oh, bitchy Bianca.
Yeah. So then after that, we cut to a backstage with all the actors kind of milling around, and Lady Crane's about to take the sip of the drink that's poison, and at the very last second, Arya slaps it out of her hand, saves her.
Careful of that one.
And kind of screws up her assassination mission.
If she was playing Hitman,
she'd be really bad at it.
Game over.
Awful. So Lady Crane's not getting killed. Unfortunately for Arya, the waif is hanging around in the background, keeping an eye out on her, and she reports straight back to Jaqen H'ghar, snitches straight away, knocks on Arya straight away, and Jaqen H'ghar gives her the command to take out Arya.
You promised me.
Don't let her suffer.
So the next scene, we've got Arya taking Needle out of its hiding place, going into a dark room, blowing out the candles, and presumably just kind of getting comfortable for the impending assassination attempt.
Yeah. What's weird though is in the Faceless Men, they're trying to make you forget who you are and everything. And Arya's not allowed to hold on to her grudges, her list, whereas the waif has had it in for Arya since day one, and yet Jaqen's just yeah, all right, keep that on the back burner, and then now it's oh, I'm gonna kill her.
That's an interesting observation, because a lot of people are probably thinking Arya spent a lot of time kind of cutting ties to her old life, going through this brutal training. She went blind, and now she seems at the very last moment she's given up on the entire thing and is going back to her quest, unless killing waif is part of her trial.
What, and then she can use the waif's face?
Maybe, because it seems going back to the original revenge quest after having gone through all that, it's just an unexpected, jarring turn for her.
Well, at the end, you see her in a darkened room, and she was blind for ages, so maybe that's the whole plot of how she's going to fight the waif. Use take her senses away, and now she's been trained to fight blind, get the one up on her.
But if they went through the same training, has the waif never been blind? Do we know?
I don't know. It doesn't. I mean, maybe it's generic training for all, but maybe it's specific to Arya. She needs to stop seeing her past before she can move forward. Maybe it's symbolic. So, and maybe the waif had some different drama. So
yeah. I mean, to be honest, I felt a lot of the plot points in this episode were quite heavy-handed. Especially Sam's, who we'll get into in a minute. But this one, it was kind of a nice, subtle one that left a lot of questions, I thought.
Meanwhile, in Marine, we have Daenerys with her newly acquired Khalasar just riding behind her. They're just kind of sauntering along.
She keeps getting them and then losing them, getting another one.
Who knows how long they'll be around for. But like she's on her horse going down, and she kind of her spider sense starts tingling. She sees something in a distance or feels something in a distance, and then at that time, her right hand man Dario is like, "What are you up to?" And she's like, "You know what? I want to go and conquer the 7 kingdoms. How many ships would I need to do that?" And he's like, 1,000.
Just like the exact amount that you're on Greyjoy.
Exactly.
Last episode was like, build me
1,000.
1,000 ships in 10 days, please.
On an island that has no trees.
Yeah, exactly. So then she's like, "Well, I'll figure that bit out. Meanwhile, just need to go to the toilet or something." Like she goes round the corner. It's like everyone's like, "All right, piss break? Who knows what's going on here?"
My favorite thing is when Dario's like, "I'm gonna go after her," and we were sat there going, "Mate, no, just go over and have a tea."
Keep going.
Give
She's
us a
curling
privacy,
one
man.
out. Like leave it. But then she's obviously we all it's going on just long enough for us to figure out what happens, and then the shadow of a dragon appears, and there you have it. Drogon is back, and he's like, "I'm a dragon still, you guys." And everyone's like, "Whoa, dragon."
But then she gives that speech, and the whole time Drogon's got his mouth open, and I keep thinking like, is he gonna like burp fire?
Especially
on them?
since she went on a horse. The horse is like nowhere now. She's
Yeah.
like, "Oh,
The horse was lunch.
By the way, Drogon, if you
That's-
fancy a snack, I brought you one."
That's my favorite part of that. If you're watching that again, look at the horses' faces. They're like, "We're gonna eat in. We're dead. We're done here."
But yeah, I mean, for an episode called Blood of My Blood, I expected more from the Daenerys bits, but apparently not. But speaking of the actual, I guess the meat of the episode in terms of family ties was Horn Hill. So Dave, what happened in Horn Hill and the rest of the South?
Considering the amount of time this episode spent in Horn Hill, not a lot happened. We're sat in the carriage and Sam is just nattering about nature and trees. He's like, "It's a nice tree over there.
Willow
got
tree.
Got some maples, some willows." And the baby, little Sam in his arms, is just like being a horrible little pervert.
Can we just say shout out to that baby?
He was like hands out, staring at,
Yeah.
And we get to Horn Hill and meet Sam's mother and sister. And again, the baby's just like,
Straight in.
God damn.
The point where his mum leans over and
Yeah.
the baby's like, all right.
He leans forward like, "Yep, I'm going in."
I'm coming in. And so we're hanging out in Horn Hill, meet the mother, meet the sister, and we've been led to believe that, Sam's dad is a complete ass. And, well,
He's an ass.
he's an ass. So we sit through the most awkward dinner ever. He thinks that being a member of the Night's Watch was going to make a man out of him. Didn't
No.
quite work. And Gilly accidentally lets slip that she's a wildling. And
Classic Gilly.
apparently he's not a big fan of wildlings.
Nah.
No.
So that spoils dinner. We spend a lot of time at this table. And eventually Sam is preparing to leave and Gilly's going to stay behind, work in the kitchen. Little Sam's going to get an education. And then we see him leave and we're like, "Oh, classic Sam. No backbone." But then he comes back and you're like, "Yes, Sam." And then he robs his dad's sword. He's like,
So it's one of the few remaining Valyrian steel swords. So it's Heart's Bane.
Yeah. It's kind of setting up Sam to be this White Walker killer, which is
Yeah.
quite interesting
But is it
and
like-
weird.
He's killed one before,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
if he's taken this Valyrian steel, and we've seen how powerful it is, back to the wall with him. If he ends up back there, then he's gonna be glad he snatched that.
Yeah, because he's either going to go one of two ways. He's either going to go back to the wall with a Valyrian steel, or he's going to go to Old Town and cure Jorah, isn't he? Because becoming a maester with all his healing.
Just chop his arm off, killed, go home. You're done.
Well, moving a little more south to King's Landing, Marjorie has been brainwashed. I think it's fair to say.
Or has,
has she?
she?
Well, it's implied. It seems to be that she's now a devotee.
The gods have a plan for us all.
And Tommen seems to share the same views as them now. They seem very pious, and Marjorie's putting quite a strong religious persona on.
I love, by the way, I love when she's getting Tom around her little finger. Like, she has a little, like, a way about her, just a really coquettish, like, coy way that she acts. And I love it because it's so manipulative. It's incredible.
It did feel like really kind of like, who is this Marjorie? What
Oh,
is
she's
she?
like, oh, I'm so stupid. Oh, Tom, and forgive me.
Well, we all think that she's going to start doing her Walk of Atonement. That's what it's been building up to. And the Tyrell troops obviously feel the same. They're coming up to face the High Sparrow at the bottom of the steps. And we see Mace Tyrell in the greatest hat we've seen
In
Top hat
all
in
his
Game of
glory.
Thrones.
Yeah.
And he delivers, bless him, he tries to deliver a stirring speech. And you're like,
It's a 4 out of 10.
Yeah,
give
'cause
it up, man. These guys are just here to get gold.
it
Like,
cuts to Jamie, who's probably delivered a few speeches, and he's like, "All right, mate, let's go."
So it seems like we're building up to fight the Men of the Faith. And Marjorie's sat at the top of the stairs, building, and then all of a sudden, Sparrow's like, there's not going to be a walk. By the way, I've just brainwashed Tommen, really taken his backbone and thrown it into the sea at this point. And now you see all of his Kingsguard are now wearing the symbol of the faith, and they're all the faith militant are now guarding him. And we see the true, like, the faith and the crown are now one. And the Queen of Thorns says it, we've failed.
And this High Sparrow delivers like one of the greatest shit-eating grins of all time. He's like, I did it. You lose.
It's me.
That shit-eating grin might be better if he actually had a wash, though.
Yeah. Although I did love watching Marjorie's face, because she obviously had her own plan about how things were going to go down, and then she sees Tyrell troops, and she just is like, clearly had no idea they were coming, so she's like, oh, okay. I mean, this is a win-win for me either way.
So Jaime at this point is not pleased. He gets fired from the Kingsguard. You just see him stripped of his armor, and then he's sent away to Riverrun to take the castle back. But first we see him talking with Cersei, and they say they have our son, basically because the Sparrows brainwashed him. And there's more awkward flirting, making out,
Surprise
Really
incest.
angry surprise.
before Jaime goes off to get Bronn again. He's got his whole plan of assassination, but he's going to go hang out in Riverrun to try and take on the Blackfish.
No mention of Dawn.
Thank the gods.
We're all good with that.
I mean, we're like 5 episodes in a row now without any Dawn. But I'll take the North. So North is pretty much where like most of the exciting stuff happened, I think, this week. We're back at the Twins. We get to see Walder Frey, who is being his own usual charming self. He's not very happy because the Blackfish, who is Brynden Tully, has managed to take Riverrun back out from under Frey control. So he's telling his sons, God damn it, go up there, take that castle back. But his sons are like, we can't, Brynden Tully, the Blackfish, he's got a big army now. And there is a great name drop for the Brotherhood Without Banners saying that they are raiding all our food supplies, they're burning villages. This isn't going well for us. We can't win. The Tullys at Riverrun could hold out a siege for about a year. We can't do it. So, I don't know. Then Walder decides to bring out his ace in the hole, or his ace in the dungeon. Edmure Tully's back.
Cheer up, Lord Edmure. You're going home.
We know that Littlefinger fed that information about Riverrun to Sansa, and we all thought that could be a Littlefinger plot. It could just be a trap, but apparently not. So also Littlefinger and Edmure grew up together. So it could be that he's his mole.
Ooh,
That could be interesting. I don't know. But north of the wall, we got some answers. So, as we said last week, Mira's dragging Bran. Bran can't control his green-seeing dreams. He has, just this array of visions. He gets to see Mad King Aerys and the Burn Them All, which we assumed that he would see. He also sees Catelyn's murder, the Red Wedding. He's all over the place. And then they get attacked by little abominations, I guess. They're not. They're like by
Gross
the white,
undead.
Yeah.
by the whites, and just at the last minute, come riding in on a horse, set stuff on fire, kills them all. Coldhands, who
Alright.
we now have confirmation that Coldhands, at least in the show, is Benjen Stark, so Bran's uncle, which is exciting. And we get to see how he was made, because he's like a half white walker, half human. But we'll talk more about Coldhands in a little bit. But he also mentions another little nugget of information that Bran is definitely the three-eyed raven now.
Yep, whether he likes it or not, he's the three-eyed raven.
He's going to
Tough.
be that old man in the tree.
Yeah.
Tough.
Three-eyed raven sent for me.
The Red Raven's dead.
Now he lives again.
So an interesting revelation about Coldhands. Maybe it's one question that's been answered, but this episode I felt did raise a few more questions, particularly to do with Daenerys. So Tam, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, Daenerys she's in a strange place right now. She seems to be regressing into an older character, someone who we haven't seen for a long time. This is the first time in quite a few seasons, I think, that she's talking about wanting to conquer Westeros and take over the kingdoms again. That was something that her brother kind of imposed on her.
Yeah.
And then it was something that her husband, Drogo, wanted to gift her for her son. But since they're kind of out of the picture now, it's kind of unclear why she wants that again. She's become more of a liberator than a conqueror. So the fact that she's like, suddenly like, I want to own we're going to have all of it, is quite jarring and it's a bit sudden.
How many ships will I need to bring my Khalisat to Westeros?
Dothraki and all their horses, the Unsullied, the Second Sons. 1,000 ships, easily. Probably more.
And who has that many?
Nobody.
Nobody yet.
So we ride from Marine, and after that, we sail for Westeros. And what then?
I take what is mine.
You weren't made to sit on a chair in a palace.
What was I made for?
You're a conqueror, Daenerys Stormborn.
Her demeanor has changed quite a bit. She's usually quite sympathetic to the people she's talking to, whereas when she was addressing her Khalisar, she almost was channeling Khal Drogo. Like if you go back and watch the two speeches, it's very similar, and it's like he was talking about riding horses across the kingdoms and, raping and pillaging and doing what Dothrakis do best, and she's kind of leaning towards that as well, which is kind of I'm not sure if it feels inconsistent to me, but I'm not sure if it does to you guys. What do you think about that? Without her son and kind of like Khal Drogo and her brother, is this kind of in line with what she is as a character, or is it kind of weird to you guys?
I think it's consistent in a way, but I think the way that it came out this episode was maybe a little heavy-handed because she's always been Misa, she's the breaker of chains, blah, 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 which has always been, the Daenerys that we sort of expected. But I think her being captured and put in the Dosh Khaleen is meant to symbolize that, she's had enough and now she just properly wants to get over there to Westeros. It's also quite nice because, God, she can't just be stuck in Essos for the rest of the damn series, which is what I was genuinely worried about happening.
See, to me, like, it seems like it's almost feels so strange, like so jarring a turn that it's a bit crazy. And as we all know, craziness runs in the Targaryen family. Like her father is Mad King Aerys.
Yep.
And her brother is like, he was crazy in terms of his lust for power.
Yeah.
So this could be a sign of kind of like that same Targaryen madness starting to take over her.
I hope so.
And if that's the case, like, so far, all the Targaryens who have given into their madness have ended in failure or death, which means like they could be setting up Daenerys to be the big bad. When she gets over there with her dragon, everyone's like, she's kind of awful. Maybe we should take care of her as well. I mean, she's bringing the Dothraki with her, and the Dothraki aren't exactly political. Like they don't, their MO is to kill everything, destroy, steal horses, like just degrade. And, it's like running a train across the entirety of Westeros. There's not going to be any room for people to be like, there's kind of like shades of, benevolence here. It's straight up murder.
It's not going to be a peaceful takeover like it was in Marine. Like when she broke those chains, it'd be like, we need to burn us in Westeros.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's going to be quite strange as well, because then you imagine if she ends up meeting Jon, whereas Jon's kind of like on the revenge kick as well. So these characters that we've grown to love and think are the the nice ones, they just want honor and peace, might not be.
Maybe they'll kind of like play off each other. One will be the the gung-ho mad warmonger. The other one's like, listen, we have an objective, but we got to be careful. The people that we love here, and there are humans about. So maybe Jon's going to be like the water on her fire.
Or the ice on her fire. Bran can't control his green seeing, I think. Also, I love the fact that this episode was directed by Jack Bender, who did a bunch of episodes of Lost. So when Bran was having that crazy vision thing, I was like, oh, this is so series 4 of Lost.
We have to go back.
We have to go back. And back he did go. So Dave, you've been through Bran's vision. There was a lot of chopping and changing, but you've seen some quite interesting things.
They do flashback quite sporadically, but there are some quite interesting moments if you put them all in order. So most interesting of all is that it's the first time we see the Mad King himself, and he's just shouting, burn them all. And you see shots of wildfire, which has played a big part in the series in the past.
Really bright green.
Yeah, it's pretty obviously wildfire.
Yeah.
Just big green flames murdering loads of dudes. Then we see shots of King's Landing in smoke. So not sure if that's like
Before.
looking forward or after.
Yeah.
Or like when he burned the rebels.
Yeah.
And then we see Jaime take his famous action of stabbing him in the back, and then takes the seat of throne for himself, maybe just because he's tired, because he's no king.
Yeah.
Well, armor's heavy. I mean,
It's just like,
True.
oh man, this seat.
Although he did
It's
just kill an old
uncomfortable.
dude.
Yeah.
I don't think it was that difficult. He also gets to witness the death of his brother, his father, and his mother.
Because he wasn't
Lucky
there
him.
for any of those, was he?
No.
He was way, way away.
Yeah.
So he knows they're all dead, but this is the first time he's like obviously seen it. Lots of shots of the Night King as well. At the head of his army at Hardhome, after they took over all the wildlings. Yeah, when he raises the dead and they're all staring off as the few flee across the lake. Touching the face of the baby that we saw a long time ago and turning it, you see his eyes turn blue.
I do wonder about that baby though. I feel like it's gonna come back at some point.
They're reminding us for a reason.
Yeah.
Scores of the undead. The moment he touched Bran's arm and kind of ruined their little underground tree den that they all had.
It's like, when you do something embarrassing and at night you're sat there going, I did that. I can't believe I did that. That is essentially what that Bran's vision was. It's like, I remember the time I just destroyed Westeros because I was an idiot.
Doomed a species to extinction. And then we even see the fight that the Night King had with Bran's brother Jon, which obviously no way he has any knowledge of that. Shots of Dany with the dragons as well, his own fall from the tower, and what appears to be young Ned's hand covered in blood. So
R+L=J, confirmed.
well, the shots of wildfire, the Mad King shouting, the White Walkers. Do we think this confirms another theory we're talking about, where Bran's whispers into the past are affecting way more than we thought they could?
Yeah, it looks like that's what they're leaning towards. I mean, the Mad King Aerys thing, burn them all, is obviously the thing that people really focus on. Was that Bran kind of whispering in his ear, telling him to burn the White Walkers,
and he's misinterpreted it as the rebels.
Yeah, burn everyone, kill everyone. I think the R+L=J thing is like, if you look closer at that shot, there's clearly like, I think if we go back and watch the scene at the Tower of Joy, you could probably make out that is definitely Ned Stark's.
Yeah, it's his bracer.
Yeah, and there looks like a woman's hand underneath, but it looks like the babies have been cut out. Like is that a?
I mean, cesarean section possibly.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like, why? Was it a difficult birth? Was it someone knew the real parentage of the baby?
Poison, like get the kid out before the mother can die.
That's all we know, right? Like that he went to the Tower of Joy and there was blood. And promise me, Ned.
Promise me.
And there are a lot of shots in this. Do you think many more are kind of hinting at future plot lines, like the Night King's March or even Lady Stoneheart? Because we do see old Catelyn get her throat cut. Now, that could have just been for context in his other family dying, or it could be hinting at something.
I think because later on in the episode, when they go to the twins, they make a real big deal about Walder Rivers, who is the one who actually cut the throat. And I feel like this is all sort of just reminding everyone of what happened, like why the Tullys want revenge, why the Starks want revenge, and also maybe seeding Lady Stoneheart. Because she's been gone a long time.
It definitely feels like a lot of the flashback stuff and a lot of the references that have been made are kind of just pointing everyone towards reminding you about Catelyn Stark, so that when she comes back, people are like going like, what the hell is this all about? Yeah, it's definitely feels like set up for that.
Well, like you said before, it's implied that it's the Brotherhood Without Banners that raise her. And we mentioned before that the Brotherhood Without Banners are raiding the supply lines for the Walders that are assaulting Riverrun.
Right.
And we are like we see the scene where he says, show them the knife that cut Catelyn Stark's throat.
Who's currently leading the Brotherhood of Banners?
It'll be Beric Dondarrion and
because they have
Thoros of Maya. But depending on whether or not Lady Stoneheart's back, she actually does take control of the Brotherhood.
Right.
So she, if she's been brought back, she's the one leading them, getting revenge on the Freys. If she's not, then it's Beric Dondarrion.
And they have some history with people returning from the dead and that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah. Beric has been brought back
There
like
you go.
7 times.
So
And after
seems
all
like
the
it.
time travel stuff, the raising the dead stuff, the half White Walker, Coldhands stuff, I always thought that bringing back Lady Stoneheart from the dead would be like, oh, it's a bit too far-fetched. It's like the least far-fetched thing
now.
that could happen now.
It's fine.
All right, Coldhands. So, for years, book readers have been speculating about who he could be. So it could, obviously, Benjen Stark is the obvious choice, the Night's Watchman who went missing, who's then come back as Coldhands. But there's also other names in the mix, like really old Night's Watch members who've just gone missing, like literally hundreds of years ago. It could be them. But now it seems that the showrunners, so at least for the TV show, Coldhands is Benjen Stark.
Uncle Benjen.
In the book, we know that he's definitely a member of the Night's Watch because he's dressed in black, and he meets Sam Tarly in the book at some point and calls him brother, again saying that he's a member of the Night's Watch. So it's kind of strange that he has been confirmed as Benjen, because there was a thing I saw where someone had found an original manuscript of A Dance with Dragons, and they had editor's notes written on them. And one of the editor's notes was, "So Coldhands is Benjen, ? And George wrote in big red pen, no, like circled it. So it would be interesting to see if this is a plot point that they're going to deviate on.
I mean, previous to this, the Hodor stuff hasn't reached its finale in the books, has it?
George has confirmed that came from George, though.
So this would be the first plot deviation, right?
Not really. Like, I think if it was a big character reveal, like sometimes characters get changed around.
Right.
The reason I was thinking is because we know Benjen as a character. Like, we met him in season 1. He's Ned's brother. He took Jon to the wall. Is it just convenience that he's Coldhands?
I mean, it is part convenience, but it also makes good sense. Like, obviously, Benjen's a known quantity. He's like, he went missing for a period, and he has familiarity and has been in close contact with the White Walkers. So if it was gonna be anyone, he's the best option, I think, and it kind of fits the way the story is actually going. It's not like he's shoehorned in there, because obviously at the same time, you know, Bran is seeing the visions, and a lot of the visions are of his family being killed, which is something he didn't really see because he wasn't present. But it might be a way of kind of reinforcing his family kind of connection again, to remind him that he is, you know, a relative of Benjen, to kind of create that connection. Maybe as a replacement for Hodor. I mean, Hodor, they've always been quite close, but he needs someone who he can rely on again. And for that person, like, I think the best person is his uncle Benjen.
That's interesting, actually, saying that it's reinforcing the family tie, because especially now that Benjen's like, oh yeah, the Three-Eyed Raven is you, and last week the Three-Eyed Raven was like, oh, I'm training you to be my replacement. It's kind of as if Bran was his own entity rather than being Bran Stark. He's becoming the Three-Eyed Raven.
Yeah.
This all-seeing.
It makes for the best storytelling as well, because if it was some old dude that went missing 100 years ago who saved Bran, you'd be like,
why do I care?
Why do you care? And there's a lot more kind of gravitas to it being Benjen, because obviously his brother's been killed. All of his family have been killed. So he's got this real kind of need to help his nephew and kind of see things through and get rid of the White Walkers. And, you know, who knows where they could go, and from there they could conquer the world.
And obviously, since he's half White Walker and the White Walkers are trapped north of the wall because of the wall's magic, maybe he can now come south again.
Yeah.
And like, imagine that reunion with Jon. Like, oh, by the way, I died once and came back to life. Oh, hi, Uncle Benjen, you're half a White Walker. That's setting up for some supernatural family stuff going on. Yeah,
he could be the key to defeating, you know, the White Walkers. He's he's got one foot in each world, and he could like come in between and be like the key to figuring out how to bring them down once and for all.
And he knows what he's doing when he's fighting them, because he uses the flaming flail and the chained scythe to smash the bone men. So I mean,
which kind of feeds into
alone.
it feeds into the burn them all kind of thing.
Yeah. So the show's writers are dropping really clumsy, heavy-handed hints that the Tullys are going to have some kind of big resurgence and have a big part to play in the latter half of this season. They keep dropping the name of the Blackfish, who's retaken River Run, and they've also just, you know, Edmure's alive. You know, hey kids, remember me?
Nope.
No, we don't. Who are you?
No, I remember you, Edmure, but you've been gone a long time. So I thought it'd be helpful to have a little refresher in why these guys are so important. So let's start with the Blackfish himself. He's been seeded the longest, I think. So he's Brynden Tully. He's Catelyn Stark's uncle, the younger brother of Hoster Tully, who's Catelyn's dad. And he's a distinguished knight, and he's been married to the job. He's been a successful military tactician, but he's never married. So, and even though his brother has set him up with some fine ladies,
he loves the fishes.
He's the black. So the reason he's called Blackfish is because he's the black sheep of the family, and because the Tullys love fish, he's the Blackfish, and it's stuck. It's also the name of a very harrowing documentary on Netflix about SeaWorld. But so he's called the Blackfish, and in Game of Thrones, as we've seen him, he counseled Robb back when Robb was leading his
King of the North.
King of the North stuff. He's eventually, quite unsuccessful King of the North stuff. And he warns Catelyn just about how slippery and how dangerous Walder Frey is. So basically, he's the only Tully who's been speaking sense.
Yeah.
That's what makes him the Black Sheep.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's also like the world's luckiest man because at the Red Wedding, he drank too much and needed to pee and managed to escape at the exact moment that the massacre started.
What a time to go for a piss.
Just
perfect.
Do you think that was a coincidence?
Nailed it. I don't know. Maybe he's got like some fish sense that tells him like
He was just so scared.
Yeah,
He was wetting himself. He's like, I gotta get out of here.
Gotta
go.
I don't know. In Game of Thrones, I don't believe in coincidence anymore. I like to think that I don't know. Would he know? Like, even if he did know, would he not warn?
I mean,
anyone?
if he's already warning people that Walder Frey is not a wholesome dude, like he might be getting a feeling like, I don't like this man. I gotta go.
Gotta go pee on a tree.
Yeah.
He heard the rains of Castamere and he was like, I'm out. Peace.
No,
Done.
Rains. He was like, oh, need to pee. Need to pee.
Flushing Meadows.
So where he's been in the last couple of seasons, he's been rebuilding the Tully army. And as we know from Littlefinger, who's a trustworthy source for a change, he's taken Riverrun back, the homeland of the Tullys, from the Freys, which is awesome. So we also know that Brienne of Tarth is on her way to go and treat with him and try and get support for Sansa's army up in the north. But what I'm thinking now is that now we know that Jaime Lannister's on his way. Is he going to have men to spare? Like, I assume Jaime's going to bring the Lannister hordes. They're going to have whatever support is left from the Freys. I don't know if he's managed to build that many men.
Yeah, I'm not too sure either.
I mean, no one likes the Freys either.
Yeah.
Even the Lannisters, whilst they're meant to be allies, and the whole reason, like, Freys were like, oh, I'm going to kill your enemies in one fell swoop, Lannisters, because he was meant to marry my gross daughter, and now he's not, so screw those guys. But maybe, like, you mentioned Brienne. We saw Brienne and Jaime get quite close.
Hang on, don't you dare take Tormund Giant's Bay away from me.
They're just good friends. They're just good friends. No. But they became quite friendly.
They had a mutual respect for each other.
Yeah. So if she turns up at the same time, maybe her and Jaime can work something out. Like we know the Freys have got Edmure, and the whole point of them having him is to use him to break the siege. So there's a lot of characters in play, all with kind of their own agendas. It's basically whose agenda's gonna come out on top.
Yeah. And speaking of Edmure, let's have a little brief reminder of him. So he is Catelyn's brother, and he's been, as we found out, kept in a dungeon for the last 3 seasons. So he is, you'll remember, he's the kind of more hot-headed, emotional Tully. I guess they all are to a degree, but when their dad died, when Hoster died, he had to, light the funeral pyre on fire with a bow and arrow. Couldn't do it, just kept missing. So that's when Brynden actually got involved and was like, give me that. And he's a little bit ashamed of his nephew and his hot-headedness. So he's technically head of House Tully. And when Robb Stark, all he needed to do was marry Walder Frey's daughter to secure that treaty, but instead he pissed him off and married, what was her name, Talisa?
Can't even remember. Whenever I think about it, I just have that flashing image of the Red Wedding.
In Game of Thrones, they have that weird bedding ritual, which is like everyone being like, yeah, you're going to have sex. And like he, picked her and Rosalind Frey and Edmure and took them up to their bedroom, and then they just captured him. So he's just been sat there. I always assumed that they killed him.
Yeah.
Yeah, same. But
so Edmure's now a bargaining chip.
Unlucky buddy.
Is he? Yeah, this doesn't bode well for him.
I mean, is anyone else going to really care? Like, they're like, we thought you were dead already, so don't really care, man.
I don't know. I guess like House Tully though, they have strong family ties, but also I think Littlefinger might care.
Yeah.
Because if Littlefinger, they all grew up together. So if Littlefinger's aware, which he probably is, he knows everything, I assume he's going to at least maybe send the Knight of the Vale there. Maybe that's where because Sansa's already refused his help, so maybe he helps out there first and then secures that alliance and then they all go up.
So is this, like when Sansa refused the troops, is that why do you think Littlefinger sowed, like, oh, by the way, Blackfish is, so she knew she'd go there. He knew she'd go there.
Yeah.
And in the stalemate that's going to come from, like, the Blackfish's troops and Jaime's troops and the Frey troops, like Littlefinger's just going to step in with his army of like super Vale Knights and be like, listen, out.
I'd like to see that happen.
Yeah. Now's the part of the show where we tend to do Death of the Week. No one of note died this week.
No.
They were all nameless, already dead whites. So we thought instead we would do Hat of the Week.
It's pretty dope hats this week.
There have been some pretty great hats. I think we have a clear winner.
Yeah, there's...
But let's talk about some of the other great hats. I mean, the Mad King.
Yeah.
He had a cool crown.
He had a good
Top
crown.
hat.
It was like dragon wings all...
And he was
melded
like
into one.
screaming as well. So it was like, he's embodying that hat. He's working that hat.
And of course, honorable mention to Olenna Tyrell.
But her hats are always great.
Always on point. with the
Always
hats.
great. But I mean, the real winner. Just take a bow, Mace
Magnificent.
Tyrell.
Magnificent.
Because, I mean, your speech was a solid 4 out of 10.
Yeah.
Your
But
hat.
that hat.
That's the thing. Like, he gave an awful speech, but every one of the troops were like, that hat, though.
Yeah,
No
those
one listened. They were,
feathers.
Yeah, they were like,
he's talking rubbish, but he looks good doing it.
damn.
Majesty of that hat.
It's a beautiful hat. Like, I wish I had the balls to wear a hat like that. Just on a day, random day. I would do it.
You come in next week
Yeah,
wearing
just
that hat.
wearing a
I'll
hat
buy
with like
one.
feathers and stuff in it, just typing away on my desk. Like,
Take a bow, Mace Tyrell. Time now for a separate spoiler warning. If you didn't watch the Next Time on Game of Thrones and you want to go into next week's episode completely fresh, look away now. Turn off, close your window. But we're going to be talking about the promo for Season 6, Episode 7, The Broken Man. So the promo starts with Blackfish and Jaime butting heads, having a little face-off. Which is good because they spent the last 3 episodes seeding that the Blackfish is going to be a thing, damn it. Like, you should get ready. You should get hyped for him. What does he say? He says...
As long as I'm standing, the war is not over.
Also, they make a big thing of Walder Rivers, who is the guy who I think cut Cat's throat. I guess they're seeding that he's going to get his comeuppance, maybe. But then, moves on to King's Landing. Let's get Olenna and Cersei. Olenna has a really great, another amazing put down for Cersei.
Our 2 ancient houses face collapse because of your stupidity.
We also get to see badass Sansa back in the north. So she is visiting the small houses with Jon and Davos. So we already know that House Mormont is loyal only to the Starks. And we can see them there. You can see the banners. We also get to see House Glover. So
The scarlet flag with the fist in the background. Only a glimpse of it, but we also know that they're loyal to the Starks as well.
we see some Greyjoy action. We're going to take back the Iron Island. So I assume they're on their way. They took their jetpacks and they're in Volantis now,
Stole
I guess.
all those boats, just had jetpacks on board.
I mean, the way that time travel and traveling in general is working in
none
this
of us want to
series.
see a whole season of just them on a boat, just traveling from one point to
How
another
long?
point.
How long? Ooh, another 6 weeks.
Just
All
Theon
right.
constantly complaining that he's been castrated.
We also see Tormund Giantsbane talking to the wildlings, being like, Jon died for us. So I guess that's...
Well, that's the thing about that scene. He says, he died for us. If we're not willing to do the same, we're cowards. That could mean Jon or
Mance Rayder.
Oh, Mance Rayder.
So they both died for them.
Oh, maybe.
But I think it's Jon.
I mean, the problem with Mance Rayder is they cut a whole plot line where there was like a wildling princess and all that stuff. And with Mance Rayder, they cut from the book. So I assume they're just talking about Jon.
I think Tormund's just sticking around to get a bit closer to Brienne.
And she's gone now. She's gone to the Riverlands.
Like, if he cuts ties with them,
Yeah, he should have
can't
gone
see
with
old
her.
Brienne again.
No. And then speaking of Edmure, he's Walder Rivers is holding a blade to his throat, so it doesn't look good for him.
Just can't catch a break, that
He's
guy.
been stuck in a dungeon for 3 years, and now he's a really bad bargaining chip because no one really seems to care. And then we got a name drop of Bronn in this episode, so there's no Dawn, but at least Bronn's back in the picture.
I love Bronn.
Bronn is back in town.
Bronn's back in town, so Jaime's going to find him. And then we get Davos with a sweet, sweet line to close the promo.
The real war is between the living and the dead. And make no mistake, the dead are coming.
So that was episode 6, Blood of My Blood. Tam, what do you think of it?
Do you know what? The more I think about it, the more I kind of warm to it. It was very messy. The pacing was a bit off. The whole stuff with Sam was just like,
Yeah.
But it's setting up a lot of interesting things. Coldhands, I'm very fond of mysterious assassin-y types that appear out of nowhere, and I'm really into that character. But yeah, it's a lot of setup. Not a very lean episode, but like you said at the start, it kind of is what we needed after holding the door last week.
Dave?
You've got a point. Like you said, we need to dial it back a little bit, but it was mostly filler.
Yeah.
There are some good points. There are some points that we can look forward to, but we didn't need 15 minutes of an old man calling his son fat.
I mean, I feel like at that point, especially, Sam could have just gone in and been like, yo, Dad, steal the sword and then go. But I guess they wanted to do some characterization, but I felt that it was bad.
If I wanted to see a dad telling the son they're fat, I'd
Come
stay
to
at
my
home.
house.
Oh, my God. Well, that's all for this week. Don't forget to find more GameSpot of Thrones at youtube.com/GameSpot. You can also find us on iTunes if you like the audio version for your commute or, just before bed. I listen to podcasts just before I go to sleep. Just search iTunes for GameSpot of Thrones. You can find us here next Monday, of course. We'll be running through the next episode, which will be The Broken Man. Is it Bran? Are we going to see what's in the Tower of Joy? Come experience the inevitable disappointment with us when they get to the door of the Tower of Joy and just close it. But in the meantime, I'm on Twitter at Lucy James Games. Dave?
I'm on Twitter at IrregularDave.
And I am at TomorH.
And we will see you next week.